Be ready. 5 seconds. Start. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I feel deeply honored to be the first Indian president to make a state visit to Israel. Since I arrived here yesterday, I have been touched by the warmth of the reception and the gracious hospitality that has been accorded to me and to my delegation. It is indeed an honor to be invited to your parliament to address the distinguished representatives of the people of Israel. I bring to you the warm greetings and goodwill of the people of India. Having participated intensely in the deliberations of the Indian Parliament since I was first elected to the upper house in 1969, I feel very much at home when I visit other great parliaments of the world. And this is one such occasion. The parliament, with its unique structure and responsibilities of making the basic laws that substitute a written constitution, has proved the power of parliamentary discussion and debate. Having been a parliamentarian and public servant for over 50 years, I am today more convinced than ever that a thorough deliberation with due consideration of all shades of opinion is the key to good policy making. I am accompanied today by the Honorable Union Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment and a delegation of members of the lower house of the Indian Parliament. They represent different political parties and constituencies across the length and breadth of India. In fact, the Indian Parliament is a drop of the Indian subcontinent and it symbolizes in every sense the unity, strength, and diversity of the Indian people. As you are doubtless aware, the general elections which took place in India last year was the largest democratic exercise of the right to vote in living history. The turnout was unprecedented and the outcome historic for the first time in 30 years. The Indian electorate had voted for a majority government. I am happy to say that as President of India voted to office at the time of the previous government, I had the satisfaction of presiding over a very smooth transition from one democratically elected government to another. Like your parliament, the Indian parliament has all the important functions of a legislative branch that checks the executive branch of the Indian government, questions its actions, and thoroughly examines its policies. It makes laws and has wide financial powers. No tax can be levied without its approval by the appropriate authority. My state visit to Israel is taking place at a time when relations between our two governments and our people are on a very positive trajectory. India and Israel, as fellow democracies, share many commonalities. The linkages between our peoples date back to ancient times. The first group of persecuted Jews who came to India landed on her western coast more than 2000 years ago. Throughout their long history, the Jewish communities in India have maintained, developed, and enriched their traditions with many Indian additions to their unique heritage. The Jewish people have been and will always be an integral part of India's composite society. Both India and Israel made parallel struggles against British rules. Our leaders adopted different methods but were inspired by the same human values and ideals. I was pleasantly surprised to learn that Mahatma Gandhi is the only world leader whose photograph had been kept by former Prime Minister David Ben Gurion in his own home. In the period after independence, our countries traveled different paths. The Indian people have nonetheless always appreciated Israeli innovations in the field of agriculture and the remarkable achievements of your scientists and engineers. We admire the will and resolve with which the Jewish people have risen from the depths of unspeakable suffering and deprivation with a strong spirit and built their nation to make it what it is today, a thriving, progressive, and prosperous society that leads the world in so many fields. Whenever the Nobel Prizes are announced, we often see names of scientists who have studied in one of your universities here. As friends of Israel, we rejoice in your success. Our two countries established full diplomatic relations in 1992. Since then, our cooperation in different fields has grown steadily. India remembers with gratitude the help that the Israeli government provided in rushing critical defense supplies to India when we required them most urgently in 1999. We also appreciate the support that we have received from Israel for India's rightful claim to a permanent seat in the UN Security Council. India has been a strong voice of developing countries in the UN and other multilateral organizations. India believes that there is no better option than to resolve issues through negotiations and peaceful dialogue. We see that the administrative architecture of international bodies is not effective enough in enforcing their decisions. The United Nations was established at the end of the Second World War. Today, its organizations need to be more responsive to the challenges that the world faces, and its structure as well as administrative and financial architecture need reform to make them more reflective of the changed world. I rise to commend the Constitution Amendment Bill seeking to have an impartial and multi-member election commission. The object of the bill is simple but important. It seeks to provide for a multi-member election commission, removal of the members of election commission including the chief election commissioner from office only in like manner and on like grounds as a judge of the Supreme Court, and powers to the Election Commission to make rules for regulating its own procedure, etc. The present position under Article 324 of the Constitution is that the superintendence, direction and control of the preparation of the electoral rolls for and the conduct of all elections to Parliament and to the state legislature and of the offices of the state legislature and of the offices of the President and Vice President are vested in the Election Commission. Clause 2 of the article visualizes that the Election Commission consists of the Chief Election Commissioner and such number of other election commissioners as the president may from time to time fix. But unfortunately, the commission continues to be a single member body in spite of the demand in parliament, the press and the public platform. The chief election commissioner, the words election commissioners are incorrect, is the sole authority in all matters pertaining to preparation of the electoral rolls and conduct of elections of the president, the vice president and members of parliament and of state legislatures.